Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Ring Apron with Kia and
Steve. That's me.
That's him. So we have a lot to go over and a lot to get through tonight. But before we start that, we've got a little bit of business to handle.
Absolutely. First of all, for any of us, and we're giving a little bit of time here to let some folks join in. But if you want, hello, we see folks starting to jump into the bottom here. So we're giving everybody a little bit of time here. But in case you did not watch SmackDown tonight, if you don't want a spoiler, this is your chance. Mute your things. Step away for a minute. But we're gonna give you guys about 5-10 seconds to step away here if you don't want to know what happened. So
mute it. Hello, Auntie. Hello, Slytherin.
Long enough?
Yeah, I believe it's long enough.
All right. New Day champs! New champs! I told y'all, hey, anybody who saw the Instagram post I put out to promote the show, Power of Positivity, and boy, did it come through tonight. Now the 8-time WWE World Tag Team Champions! The New Day at it again as Big E wins the triple threat on the main event of SmackDown tonight. Showing it because normally I do my plate exchange, but the tag team titles have no plates to switch out, so we figured we'd go ahead and get it out here right now. But yeah, we got new champs, and obviously a lot to discuss tonight. Kia, take it away.
All right, so we're going to start with Raw. From my perspective, from what I heard, because I was not there to see it, I heard it from Savannah, I heard it from Haley, I heard it from Stephanie, and of course my husband, Drew McIntyre, was goaded into putting his title on the line 25 minutes after WrestleMania. Am I correct?
Something like that.
And I know we have a lot of people who were kind of in their feelings on that. I was once I found out because I feel honestly he deserves it. I feel like he did what he was supposed to. He won it. But with that being said, how are you going to goat someone into putting their title on the line when you are just coming back? I think if I'm correct, it was the Big Show, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how are you going to do that? Was it because you have like a Netflix show coming on? Either way, that's not the point. You don't come in. You don't goat someone who's been deserving of this title. Don't do that because they're just going to pretty much kick your butt and keep it moving.
If it's any consolation, I mean, Drew did retain. He's already said he's going to be a fighting champion. He's waited his entire career to be WWE champion. He certainly didn't shy away from the challenge once he got slapped across the face. That Scottish mentality kicking in, and Drew doing what needed to be done. But it's clear he's going to be a fighting champion, and that's what we enjoy.
We do. We love it. It's a good thing. I mean, you come into this business, you prepare to hold the title. If you're not prepared, then what has Triple H said? Walk away. But with that being said, my thing segueing into that is, of course, the United States champion, Andrade, and his business partner, Zelina. Steven likes her. But
everyone likes her.
Yeah, she's very sweet in person. Got to meet her. Very nice. With that being said, they came in and they decided they wanted to put their 2 cents in about the Scotsman. I feel, to me, wrong thing to do.
Well, it's not even so much of that. You see where this is starting to go, and I saw a lot of people on social media giving the speculation of this new alliance that's being set up by Vega with Austin Theory and Andrade, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the third one? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank.
Austin Theory. Oh, Angel
Garza. Thank you. I knew it was an A. Anyway, Garza. Keep it in your pants, honey. But this thing, even, kind of giving off an implication of they're going to be the new, Shield 2.0 or something, doing the little, thing, but instead of having it out, having it up here. But, certainly making their appearance known and making it clear that this is going to be kind of the new main faction that's going to be appearing on Raw, since it appears like the Messiah's group has kind of left him. Although the Messiah getting his voice heard this week as well.
Well, from what I saw, I feel like Seth has a point to prove. I mean, I don't feel like he should because he's been carrying the show, every year pretty much on his shoulder. But in my opinion, when you come in and you are pretty much the man, more or less, in speaking of this business. Okay, let me rephrase. Not just the architect, but the Messiah. Then you have this mentality of I've got to stay on top, I've got to be on top. It's like a God complex in a way. But what I'm saying is he wanted to be heard, and he made his point loud and clear. I think when he came out and he decided to put in his 2 cents on Drew. everybody's going for Drew. Obviously, he has a target on his back. There's no way you can really stop that.
I'm not necessarily sure on that. I think there's going to be a lot of people that I think are going to be pulling for Seth. What puzzles me is not so much the fact that this match is going to happen. It appears at Money in the Bank. But it's kind of weird because I think a lot of people speculated that Seth and Drew would be one maybe held as far as SummerSlam, but yet you're going to go ahead and use that rivalry now, not saying that they may not have multiple matches along the way, but personally, I think it's a little early to be pulling Drew and Seth out right now, but we'll see what they can do.
I feel like it's a little early, too. I think, honestly, if you're going to save it, save the best for when you know everybody's going to be watching across the board in their homes, obviously because we're quarantined, in their homes and everything else. But to me, I feel like Seth made his point known. I feel like Andrade has made his point known. I feel like more or less Zelina's made his point known. Everybody's pretty much gunning for Drew. I believe he can do it. I believe he will be fine. I don't think, with his mentality, he's here to win and stay on top. Anyway,
along with the, of course, setup for Drew McIntyre, you also, of course, had Money in the Bank also starting to, assemble itself on Raw, and then a couple of matches tonight on SmackDown as well to start setting up Money in the Bank. So far, all three women's representatives from Raw have now been decided with Asuka, Shayna Baszler,
and as well as Nia, who knew coming back off a injury could grant you, getting in.
And, you look at the way that, they're setting each of them up. You've got two complete powerhouses in Shayna and Nia who have come back in just like a house on fire. And the problem is you're going to have at least at the minimum one of them lose. And then you've got Asuka, who really could use Money in the Bank to kind of build herself back up as the Empress and the, the unstoppable machine they created her to be in NXT. And then you move to SmackDown tonight again. Another spoiler. Yeah, you've had time to mute your thing if you didn't want to know it. Dana Brooke, honestly, by most people's standards, pulling the upset tonight, beating Naomi to qualify herself in front of her tag team championship match next week.
Did you see the emotional reaction we got from Naomi?
I hope that's not leading to something.
I don't think
more on that in a little bit.
I don't think those were fake tears, but yes, more on that in a little bit.
Hey, she said on her Twitter earlier, "I'm in my feelings. Leave me alone."
So with that being said, we're going to kind of get into a little bit of bad news with the releases. I know we had some on Monday, and I know we had some on Tuesday. My heart goes out to the people who have been released from the company. I feel that, with that being said, I feel like they're actually people. I get they're superstars, and they're writers, and they're producers, and they're the people that, might set up the arena and set up the pyro and set up everything. But with the people that I've heard that have been released, I'm kind of upset. You sit here and Vince pretty much states that they're essential workers, and then to, sit here and say, I need all my people, and try to put on a two-night event for WrestleMania, and then you go and you pull what you did by releasing a lot of people.
And I want to just take a second here, because I've got the list of everybody since, late Monday, early Tuesday that has been released from this, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're a wrestler, a backstage, announcer, a person. I don't care if you're the guy who puts out the food and catering. Every person who is there deserves to, be recognized for the situation, because a lot of these people were very popular amongst not just the WWE world, but the wrestling world itself.
Exactly.
So if you'll indulge me for a minute, these are the names that have been released up to this point. Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Carl Anderson, EC3, Leo Rush, Luke Gallows, Shane Helms, Eric Young, Heath Slater, Kurt Angle, Aiden English, Lance Storm, Billy Kidman, Mike Rotunda, Dave Finlay, Pat Buck, Sean Daivari, Scott Armstrong, Sarah Stock, Mike Chioda, almost 30 years, over 30 years with the company, very surprised. Sarah Logan just was in a match with Shayna on Raw. She got released. Rowan, Primo, and Epico, both Mike and Maria Kanellis, Zack Ryder, No Way Jose, Rusev, Alexander Jaksic, Deonna Purrazzo, Jerry Soto, MJ Jenkins, Ace Steel, Johnny Quisato, Dan Matha, Alyssa Miles, Serena Deeb, Kendo Kashin, and then some ones that got brought in earlier just before SmackDown from NXT, Tayanara Conti, Tino Sabatelli, Nick Ogarelli, Mars Wang, Alyssa Miles, and Cesar Bonini. And we may not be done yet.
That's not the end of it. I feel like that's just the start, and I feel like, to everybody who watches wrestling, if you've started watching or you've been watching or you just kind of tune in from time to time, I feel like these people are superstars. and writers and, like I said, people you see in catering and people you see, might set up the rings and do the pyro and everything else. They loved this business enough to come to work every day, drive from place to place to get to where they had to go to make sure us, as the fans, super fans, got the best of what they had. And for Vince to let them go the way he did, I feel like, let's even talk about Mike and Maria. The fact that they have 2 kids and you just let them go. They've been asking for their release for how long?
Months, and you choose to do it right after they have the baby and Maria's on maternity leave. And you decide to make that decision. I'm not necessarily saying one way or another. It wasn't my call to make. I wasn't the one sitting in the room to have to make that decision. But, when you've got people like the Canillises, like Rusev,
yep.
And someone not even mentioned on this list was both members of the Revival who had been released last week. All of these people have been asking for their release for months. And due to their assorted reasons, whether, they just, were determined that they were going to make them fulfill their contract, whether they were worried they're going to go to a rival company, whatever, it's, the reality is for the longest time, the word was supposed to be no one gets their outright release. Everyone's going to fulfill their contract. Nobody's leaving early. And then right after you work, a 2-night WrestleMania with almost every single name I've listed not being on the WrestleMania card, then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you basically get told, hey, you're gone. You end up reading reports, and again, there's nothing more than reports, but, hearing about some people getting their response by text message, being told, hey, guess what, you're gone. Others showing up at the Performance Center to end up being told before they even stepped in the door, hey, you're gone, go and clear out your locker.
Some being told, this is going to be your last match, and after this, you're done. Or some being told, put on the best performance you can, because if you can't, then we're going to cut you. You're gone.
Well, I think decisions had already been made prior. One that I would see, and we are going to try to push every person that wrestles in this business. We mainly talk WWE here, but at the end of the day, we want to see success amongst anyone who is part of the Wrestling Corporation. And for some of these people, some names that come right off the mind, Drake Maverick, No Way Jose. And Aiden English, folks like that. Rusev, most definitely. These are people that, are going to have no trouble picking up work elsewhere if this is what they want to continue to keep doing. And I do worry about some of them. One name that, the moment I saw the release of Deonna Purrazzo, I instantly turned to you and I said, they're going to regret this one because
it's going to bite them in the ass.
She absolutely has all the talent in the world. She was misused. Granted, Chelsea Green's, the difference in her storyline and her getting injured for a little while didn't help. But in the end of the day, it's, a reality that, it's business. And, I may not be a fan of all of them. If you go and you back on your social media, for those of you who haven't, I highly encourage you watch Drake Maverick's Twitter video. It's about 2.5 minutes. But he put out a very emotional response just minutes after he had been informed that he had been released from his contract.
It wasn't just him. It was a lot of people. No Way Jose. He put out an emotional one too. I feel like you released the people, but did you really try to work with them before you let them go? Is what I'm saying. But go through your Instagram and go through your Twitter and actually take a look at how their reactions are. I think Mike did one. Mike Canillis did one.
Mike Canillis did one. Maria did one as well. You can see it all over the place. Just hashtag WWE releases and you'll probably find everything you need to know. And the scary part, of course, is that it's likely not over. There are going to be a lot of names that aren't going to get mentioned. You heard stories about the folks that did make it. The next day, it was almost like survivor's remorse or survivor's guilt because so many of these people had friends, and something that Drake mentioned in his video was that he wouldn't even get the chance to say goodbye to his friends and to people that he has called not just friends but family. Face to face because of the pandemic we're going through. We watch all this for entertainment purposes, but at the end of the day, these are still human beings just like us, who have families to raise, have mortgages to pay, have car notes to pay for.
They pretty much, what we're saying across the board is they're people just like us. They have lives just like us. They have we as people, if we lose a job, it's done behind the scenes. Nobody sees what we go through. But them, they're such big names in different households that when they lost their job or they lost what they love doing, as far as, they don't even call it work, they call it fun. When they lost what they love doing, it pretty much, as you can say, Drake Maverick affected him in like the worst way. And for me, I feel like, I mean, I get it, you have too many people to work with, but at the same time, try to, even if they're mid-card, try to do what you can with them before letting them go. I feel like what happened, I feel like people were done wrong, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Well, please, that's not going to be the last you say about it. We all know that. Anybody watching knows that you're not done talking about it. At the end of the day, I mean, you semi hit the nail on the head, though. This has been a problem that WWE has had for quite some time. They absorb all of this talent, and no one's questioning the talent of it. Our low to mid card is world champion talent. You need proof of that. Look at the AEW champion right now. For almost his entire career, with the exception of a few months, Jon Moxley, known as Dean Ambrose here in WWE, was a mid-carder, okay? He had a great run with the Shield, but during his time solo, for a majority of his career, he was a mid-carder at best. And now, all of a sudden, he goes to AEW, and within months, he is a world champion. Jack Hager, known as Jack Swagger here in WWE, just main evented with Moxley in a championship match on AEW earlier this week. You are taking people that are world champion and high caliber talent,
and they're away.
And they're mid-carders here in WWE. You have just so much talent. The problem is you don't have enough shows and have enough ability to push them all. And it pisses people off on social media, and it pisses people off behind the scenes, because you see talented people that are not getting their opportunities, and it's not the wrestler's fault. They can only go with the stories they're given.
But if you think about it, in my opinion, I know we've talked about it, we have, Cody Rhodes, who is literally sitting here watching all this happen, and he's biding his time slowly but surely, and the people that have been released, he's going to want hit certain people, and he's going to go after certain people. If you're still willing to do this, after the 90 days up, come to me, you'll have a contract. I guarantee. The Revival,
you can go ahead and put them in stone. They're there. The moment they are legally eligible to be able to compete, I promise you, ink's on paper. And if they're not there, they're in New Japan. If they're not in New Japan, they're with Impact. They're going to wrestle somewhere.
What about Anderson and Gallows?
Same story, again, and that's going to be the problem for these other promotions. And again, we're of course mentioning AEW because that's the primary, American competition. Yep. But you still have New Japan, you still have Impact, you still have these other businesses. All of them are going to face this same quandary. Is there going to be people because you saw it from so many of these releases. This is the dream job, is to be in WWE. For a majority of them, and yet. It's gonna hurt your heart, for you to not be there anymore.
Finn stated it best when he left New Japan Pro and he came to the States to be part of WWE. He said, for him, this is his dream job. He wouldn't have it any other way. And for him to be here, he wouldn't have it any other way. And so he stated it best when he said, to be here is like a dream. So, with these people losing this, I can tell you for a fact, if they don't go to AEW, they're going somewhere.
Well, at the end of the day, as I said earlier, we're all still human beings, and they're no different. Yeah, they make a lot more money than we do. Yeah, they're a lot more public than we are and have a lot more of a following than we have. But at the end of the day, to be sat in a room, or in some cases, to get a text message saying your services are no longer required.
How would you feel?
I've been on the wrong end of that. I've been at the end of that board table, and it's no fun.
How would you feel to get a text, or just to come in and not know you're going to be released, but you're sitting here biting your nails?
Right. You look at people coming in. They had folks at NXT this week that basically were told, hey, you're, as soon as before you even stepped in the door, like, hey, you're done. So, but the fact is, we've got to keep moving on. I wish the very best for every single person that got released. There is not a single person that is on that list that I don't have a ton of respect for. There is not a person on that list that I don't feel has the capacity to be able to do so. A lot of people on there were very popular names. You look at people like Zack Ryder, you look at Heath Slater, you look at Rusev, you look at Deonna Purrazzo, Kurt Angle, of course, Mike Chioda, a referee of over 30 years. These are people that you knew their history, you knew their stories. These are tough names to see go. We may not be done, so we may be having even more names when we get here next week. But the reality is we've got to look forward, and what it does is if you're one of the talents that made it, at this point you have now basically been told, okay, you survived this, now you got to show me why.
Yeah.
So either way, moving forward though, we do look at, the future, of course, the announcement being made today that the 2 Money in the Bank ladder matches that will be held in May are now not just going to be our standard, go grab a ladder, climb up, grab a briefcase. There's now going to be a race literally up the corporate ladder is what how they're promoting it. The match, from my understanding, is going to be that it's going to start with them on the ground floor of the executive corporate headquarters in Connecticut, and they're basically going to have to work their way all the way to the roof and then climb a ladder where the briefcase is going to be waiting.
Okay, let's kind of bring it back. I want to talk about NXT for a second, and some of the stuff we saw with that. What is it? The whole interaction with Finn Balor, Prince Balor, and the Dream. How do you feel about that? I feel like, for me, I think that's an interesting interaction to have, because I think the Dream, of course, he's flashy, he's showy, he's ostentatious. I feel like what he's put out there and saying that he feels like Adam Cole probably could be the best of the best or whatever, and then Finn just comes out and he confronts him and says, nobody's better than me, I've made this business or whatever. I just want to see where that goes, honestly. Well,
I mean, you're basically setting up what is essentially the NXT Dream match, no pun intended. You're getting Velveteen Dream, who is definitely over with the crowd, but then you get Finn Balor, that even in his heel state is still one of the most capable wrestlers that is on the entire roster, NXT or not. There's very, very little chance that this match is going to end cleanly. This is going to involve some type of outside interference, whether it comes from the Imperium or whether it comes from the Undisputed Era. Potentially, I'm kind of reading potentially into a 6-man tag match, maybe Imperium teaming with Balor, and then you've got Dream and the Undisputed Era or whatever on the other side, or flip the teams. But the reality is, there is very little chance that they're going to allow one of these two to take a pinfall or submission loss directly before, what is going to end up being a championship match. And also, to me, there's a lot of pressure on Finn Balor, in my opinion, because, with all of the cuts and everything else, a story that kind of became public this week is the fact that possibly by the end of the summer, the UK show may not survive.
I know, and I don't watch it, but I get enough notifications to know I actually was going to tune in, and I started liking it, and now with everything going on, it may not survive, so I'm kind of crossing my fingers and I'm hoping it does.
Well, and I think that may be the reason why you took someone like a Finn Balor and you moved him over there, because you're trying to do anything to get eyeballs on it. Granted, to an American audience, it's tricky because of the fact that you're having to show it in the middle of the afternoon on a Thursday. People that, are still working, like myself, I can't watch it because obviously I'm at work at the time. So you're stuck having to watch a replay, or you're stuck having to, just read the results, which means you're not watching the matches. So it's kind of nice that they moved the storyline back onto main NXT, so that way you can be able to get some eyeballs on it. But you've got that getting set up, of course, lining up the Women's Championship match with Charlotte and Io Shirai. When that's going to happen, I'm not honestly sure, but...
Who are you pulling for?
They put the title on Charlotte. I like Io, but I can't imagine they're going to put the title on Charlotte and not have her keep it for a while. So, but hey, when the match finally does happen, if it's for a takeover, that's when we will, we'll go over it and have our official predictions on it. But as I was saying earlier, we're moving forward towards Money in the Bank. A lot of speculation, a lot of hurt feelings this week, a lot of emotions went into it, which is why I think that the championship swap at the end of SmackDown tonight, I almost feel like was a necessity, because you had to really take something and give something positive back to all of these people when you had a lot of popular names that left, and it almost was a necessity for it to happen. So, again, we wish everyone the best. This was very, difficult for us to talk about because, we've obviously been living in our emotions as well as biting nails, because there were a couple of names that were, on the chopping block that at least for the moment are still employed. But you don't know when that. You don't know if that's going to change. Every indication is they're not done yet. So we'll see how this continues to go. But we wanted to take the time to definitely get y'all's input. Please provide us with some comments. What do you guys think as to what's going to be coming up in the WWE world? Obviously this was a very mellow, very, low-key show to talk about only because of the topics that we had to discuss, due to, a lot of people losing their jobs this week. It's the nature of the beast, unfortunately, but, it happens, and, we wish them all, the best. We wish all of them success. I know they can all do well, and, of course, as well as been well seen in WWE, there's no guarantee at all that none of these people, won't show up again in the future.
We'll see them at some point.
One thing I got to mention, and this is my little factoid of the week for you. You look at the three members of 3MB. You have Jinder Mahal, you have Drew McIntyre, and you have Heath Slater. All of them are kind of facing the same path. Jinder Mahal ended up being part of 3MB. He was released from the company. He was brought back. He bulked up, became WWE champion. Then Drew McIntyre was released, went away for a while, came back, bulked up, came back, is now WWE champion. So Heath, has now, well, at this point, Heath has now been with the company, been released. So we're now up to the bulk up and needs to return part. But Heath, hey, now we sit and wait for Heath to make his grand and triumphant return. It'll take a couple of years, but we'll see if he can do it.
What does he say? He got kids. He's got to take care of them kids.
Well, I don't know how he's going to pay for those above ground pools if he's going to be unemployed for a little bit. But anyway, we want to get your thoughts on the matter. Also, a quick shout out here, as we mentioned on our IG. Earlier, make sure you tune in tomorrow, 2 o'clock, for Questions with the Queen, episode Dose. Yep. We appreciate everybody who showed up for the premiere episode. We know we kind of threw that one at you at the last minute, but it was something that, we got a very nice turnout, got a lot of good questions. We've actually got a very nice lineup of questions already there, so that is going to be something that will be posted live here at 2 o'clock. So if you've got questions that you potentially want to hear Queen Kia take the time to answer. Make sure you submit your questions. You can submit them through right here on Instagram. You can submit them through Twitter. You can submit them through YouTube on last week's video. However you guys want to do it. But be sure to take the time, because if you ask the question, we're going to do everything we can to try to get as many as we can in each week within the time frame that we're given. So take the time to send them in, and we'll see how many of them we can get answered. So we want your interaction. What do you want us to talk about? What topics? Not just Questions with the Queen, but also what topics do you want to hear us talk about on here? But with that being said, we've hit our time limit for this week. We appreciate everyone who's jumped in to watch us tonight. Of course, you can find us here. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on YouTube. All of them on the Ring Apron. And again, tomorrow, 2 p.m., check out Questions with the Queen. For
now, we're going to sign off and say we hope to see you tomorrow at 2 with me, obviously. But until then...
Oh, we have a sign-off now?
Yeah, we have a sign-off.
This is what happens when we don't rehearse. It's okay. Either way, we're working our way towards Money in the Bank, and, we love that you guys are continuing to support us and keep coming along with us. So for now, that's our show for this week. I'm Steve.
I'm Kia.
And you guys have a great evening. Again, stay home, stay safe. Y'all enjoy yourselves. We'll see you next week.
Wash your hands, sanitize, do whatever you got to do. But, yeah.
Yep. You guys have a good night. Hey, Hail United. Let's get MLS back into play, okay?
Okay, good night.
Button's yours.